السلام عليكم أيها الإخوة كيف حالكم؟ لعلكم بخير. I hope you're all well. So today we'll be learning about making verbs passive. First we'll learn what is a passive sentence and how we make them passive. So before we talk about passive in Arabic, here's a quick reminder of what a passive sentence is. Look at these three sentences in English. A spokesperson for the White House confirmed yesterday that the president was suffering from fatigue. It was confirmed yesterday by a spokesperson for the White House that the president was suffering from fatigue. It was confirmed yesterday that the president was suffering from fatigue. All of these sentences mean the same in the first two examples. The subject of the verb, a spokesperson for the White House, is present in the sentence. In sentence 1, the verb is active, confirmed. In sentence 2, the verb is passive, it was confirmed. The passive puts more emphasis on what is being confirmed rather than who is confirming, which is not important in this case. In a passive sentence, you can still include the subject after a word by, but it is often omitted altogether as in a sentence. Although you will see the passive from time to time in Arabic, it is not used as much as in English. This is partly because the English language is particularly fond of the passive and partly because Arabic has derived from 7 yen file which already has a passive meaning. You should be aware of the main features. So now we'll be learning about the passive forms. The past tense of a basic regular verb is vowelized in the passive with the dhamma followed by a kasra. So dhamma followed by a kasra. Yani u followed by an e. And the present tense with a dhamma followed by a fatha. So regular verb becomes u, e, and the present tense becomes u, a. This does not vary no matter what the vowels were originally on the active verb. Now let's take a case. Dhakara, active past tense, mentioned, was mentioned, dhukira. So regular verb, zukira. Dhamma followed by a kasra. Dhakara, zukira. It was mentioned. Shariba, drank, active past. Shuriba, same case. Yantuk, yantuk, active present tense. It becomes yontak. So present tense with a dhamma followed by fat. So this is a present tense. This was a regular verb, a past word. This is a present tense. Now yadribu, yudrab. So its present tense becomes yudrab. لا ينطق حرف الكاف في العربية الأعمية المصرية. The letter kaf is not pronounced in the colloquial Egyptian Arabic. سُرقت مني نقود. My money has been stolen from me. سُرقت مني نقودي. ذكر هذا الخبر على موقعهم في الإنترنت. This news was mentioned. ذكر was mentioned on their website. The news was mentioned. يشرب الشربات في الأفراح. The sharbat is drunk at wedding celebrations. Is drunk or is being drinking. طُلب مني أن أكتب جملا لهذا الكتاب. I was asked to write sentences for this book. So طُلب. So now you know how the present tense and the past tense is changed. Now we have irregular verbs in the passive. Irregular verbs follow the same basic vowelizing as for regular verbs in the passive with same variations to fit in with different patterns. Look at this table below. Adda, udda, yauddu, yuad. So the past, adda, udda, counted, was counted. So this is an irregular verb. So we have u and a changed. Yauddu, yu, addu. Now we have the verbs with Hamza as first root letter, but it seems like the pattern is similar to a regular verb. Amara. The weight is same, so it will become umira. Yamur, يعمر becomes يؤمر. سأل سئل, same pattern. يسأل يسأل, same pattern. قرأ قرئ. يقرأ يقرأ. وجد وجد. يجد يوجد. قال قيل. يقول يقال. رمى رمي. يرمي يرمى. So now the middle of the vowel of passive reappears on doubled verb if the second and the third root letters are written separately. أعددت, I was counted to consider. When Hamza is a root, the letter that carries the Hamza can change the passive as the vowel has changed. All hollow and weak verbs follow the same pattern. راحة البال لا تكاسب المال. Peace of mind is not measured in money. أعلم كل من يحمه الأمر. Everyone concerned was informed. قيل عنك كلام قصير. A lot of talk was said about you. أين توجد المعابد الأثرية. Where are the historic temples situated. أمر الجيش بالهجوم. The army was ordered to attack. Now we have derived forms in the passive. The derived forms are similar to the basic verb in the passive with all tenses vowelized initially with dhamma. Like the basic verb, the second root letters carries a kasra in the past passive and a fatha in the present passive. In all derived forms around these vowels, there are minor variations as shown below. Kussira, yukassar. U'mila, yu'amil. U'lima, yu'lam. Tuwakkiya, yutawakka. Tuhudis, yatahadis. احترم يحترم. استخرج يستخرج. Extracted was extracted. So أعمل المريض بعناية بعد الجراحة. The patient was treated with care after the surgery. أعلم كل من يهمه الأمر. Everyone concerned was informed. يتوقع أن يسقط المطر بعد يومين. Rain is expected to fall in 2 days. يستخرج الذهب من المناجم. The gold is extracted from the mines. So this is the summary of the passive, that it is not common in Arabic as English, but you will meet it from time to time. The most significant indicator of the passive is the dhamma at the beginning of both the past and the present verbs. In the past passive, there is also kasra under the second root letter fu'ila. In the present passive, there is also a fatha over the second root letter yuf'al. Irregular verbs and the derived forms are variations on the patterns above. What need to be referenced individually. So now we'll take a look at verbal nouns and other verbal constructions. So during the first 15 lectures, we learned about the verbal nouns and their constructions and how they're derived from verbs, and they follow more or less a less predictable patterns. Connecting these patterns with a particular type of construction, meaning this will help you further expand your vocabulary understanding structure of Arabic. So what are verbal nouns? In English, we make nouns from verbs by adding endings such as tion, meant, or ing, for example, information, treatment, swimming. Arabic put the root letters into different patterns to make verbal nouns. These are widely used and you should try to remember the main pattern and uses. So noun from basic verb. Unfortunately, as far as the learner is concerned, basic verbs have many different patterns for forming verbal nouns. Here are the sum of the common pattern with examples. Fa'al, darb, yadrib. Fa'al is, or the fi'l is the work. Darb, hitting. Yadrib, he hits. Fa'ul, dukhul, yadkhul. So from yadrib, we have darb, dukhul, entrance, dhahab, going, sibah, swimming, amal, working, from yamal. However, there are many patterns for basic verbs, and you will need to look each individually in a dictionary. The verbal noun is usually listed together with the verb because of the numerous variations in the way verbal nouns are formed. It is difficult to generalize about irregular verbs. Some types of irregular verbs will behave regularly in some patterns and irregularly in the others. And only by looking up and remembering each verbal noun individually will you start to get a feel for how irregular verbs behave and start to take guesses at the likely patterns. So, verbal nouns from derived forms are much more predictable. Only form 3 has a widely used alternative. Generally, if you know which derived form verb is, you will be able to create the verbal noun without reference from the dictionary. So, the table below shows the verbal nouns for derived forms. Present verb we have yukassir, which becomes taksir, yuamil muamala, yuallim i'lam, yatawakka tawakku, يتعاون تعاون ينقلب انقلاب يحترم احترام يستحسن استحسان. So بدال exchange. Now we have use of verbal nouns. Generalizations, they're used generally as much they are in English, and you need to include al in the Arabic. السباحة, the swimming. مفيدة لصحتك, is beneficial to your health. الانقلابات تسعى لتغير الحكومات. Coups انقلابات attempt to change governments. الفنانون the artist. يحاولون they try. أن ينالوا that they gain. استحسان admiration. الجمهور from the public. The place of un plus subjunctive. Arabic does not have an infinitive like English to walk, to see. So un plus subjunctive can be used in Arabic where English used infinitive. Another common alternative is to use the verbal noun. Look at these two sentences which have the same meaning. The first uses an plus subjunctive. So an adhab, I go. And the second verbal noun adhihab. أود أن أذهب إلى السوق. I would like, prefer to go to سوق. أود الذهاب إلى السوق. I would like to going إلى السوق. I would like going to the market, or I would like to go to the market. So both have the same meaning. It is considered a good style to use verbal nouns in this way, is often less clumsy than using a repeating an. Look at the sentences below. زوجي يريد المقامرة بمالي أنا. My husband wants to gamble with my money. So أرفض الدخول في مناقشات عميقة. I refuse to enter into deep discussions. So together with a verb. A verbal noun can be used together with the equivalent verb to add information about the action. زرت أمي زيارة قصيرة. I visited my mother for a short time. زيارة is a verbal noun. طلبت مني طلبات قصيرة كلها صعبة. Many requests have been asked of me, all of them difficult. طلبت asked. مني was asked. مني from me. طلبات requests. تعاونوا معنا تعاونا مثمرا. They cooperated with us fruitfully. So in addition, many verbal nouns have also acquired a specific meaning in general circulation. For example, khitab, it means a letter, but originally the verbal noun from khatib, yakhatib, a meaning to address publicly. Now we have active and passive participles. An active participle is the equivalent of English ing, as in went along the road whistling a tune. I was whistling. A passive participle is equivalent of English burned, as I found the cakes in the oven burned to a cinder. The cakes had been burned. So these are active and passive participles. They can also be used as adjective to describe something, a whistling machine, a burnt toast. In Arabic, the active and passive participle also used to mean the person thing that whistles and a person thing that is burnt. So now we have basic verbs. The active participle is formed by taking the root letters and putting them into a pattern file. Katib, writer or writing. Laib, playing or player. Rakib, rider or riding. The passive participle, the passive, burned to a cinder, is formed by putting the root letter into maf'ul, masboon, imprisoned, prisoner. Mandub, delegated or delegate. Maksur, broken something. Don't forget the example above only refer to one masculine person or subject. If you want to refer to a female or group, you will need to add appropriate. For example, katiba would be a la'ibun would be a group of players. So irregular verbs have some variations when put into the patterns for active and passive participles. So doubled verbs, active participle sada, passive masdood, amir, mamur, sa'il, mas'ool, carry, makruh, wajid, mawjood, ba'i, mabi', kad, maqdi, or mad'u. Now we'll see them in their derived forms. In derived forms are similar across the all forms, are very similar to each other. All the active and passive derived, all the active and passive begin with the prefix and mo. After that, the lousing of the active participle is the same as the present tense with the kasra under the second root letter changing to fatha for passive participle. This means the only thing that separates the participle mufattish, inspector, from the passive mufattash is a single vowel. Because of this, you find including clarity even for the text, not vowels. Mufattish, mufattash. Inspecting or inspector, mufattash, inspected. Muawin, muawan. Mursil, mursal. Mutawakki, expecting. Mutawakka, expected. Mutafarik, mutafarak. Munsarif, munsaraf. Muhtarim, muhtaram. Mustamil, mustamal. So you are utilizing something, mustamil. Mustamal, it was utilized. So now here are some of the active and passive participle in context. الشيكات مرسلة مرسلة بالبريد تأخرت في الوصول and كل مستعمل every user مستعمل utilizing لهذا النفق يختصر من رحلته ساعتين every user of the tunnel cuts 2 hours from his journey. So nouns and place and instrument. Other nouns that are derived from verbs are nouns of place and nouns of instrument. Nouns of place describe the place where an action happens. They are formed by putting the root letters of a verb into a pattern. Maf'al or maf'il, maf'ila. So madrasa, school, comes from the word dars. Then we have maktab from katab, masna, factory, majlis, council or sitting place. Miftah, key. The name of the instruments. They are described by formed by root letter verb into a pattern mif'al, mif'al or mif'ila. So miftah, key from fatah. Miknasa, broom. Mekos, scissors, Minsha, saw. So this is the summary of the verbal nouns and other verbal constructions. Number of nouns that participle that can form from verbs. The most important of these verbal nouns. Active and passive participles are the nouns of places and nouns of instrument. Familiarizing yourself with the patterns connected to each, this will help you expand your vocabulary. Verbal nouns are formed from root letters of verb using variety of patterns. These patterns are more predictable in derived forms than in basic form. Verbal nouns are mainly used for generalizations in sentences where English would be infinitive. Active participles follow the pattern fa'il in the basic verb. In derived form, they will start with the sound mu and have a kasra as the final verb. They are rough equivalent of English but can also be used to describe the person, thing carrying out an action. Active participles follow the pattern maf'ul in the basic verb. In the derived form, they're the same as the active part, except that they have a fatha as the final verb. They are equivalent of the English past participle burned, drunk, but can also be used to describe the person, thing that is object of an action. There are also patterns that are used to describe the place and instrument of action. Nouns of the place start with ma, and noun with instrument start with me. The vowels after this vary, and each word should be learned individually. So this is all from today, and tomorrow we'll come up with a new lesson moving towards the final top 400 verbs of Arabic. So keep and watch out for that video. Ma'as salama.